Imagine waking up tomorrow to the news that your life savings, the money you've been holding onto for a specific life-changing goal, have just been fundamentally altered in value not by a massive crash, but by a slow, persistent, and seemingly unstoppable leak. This isn't a hypothetical scenario for thousands of people across the globe who have invested their hopes and, crucially, their capital into the Iraqi dinar, waiting for the legendary revaluation, or RV, that promises to turn their patience into immense wealth. But what if I told you that the very foundation upon which that revaluation dream is built is currently experiencing cracks that are widening by the day? Welcome to a reality check that is more critical than any speculative rumor you will hear. The title of this video is IQD Today. Market pressure rises, revaluation prospects challenged, and we are going to dissect exactly what that means for your investment, stripping away the hype and focusing solely on the hard, economic data and the on-the-ground realities that the Central Bank of Iraq is battling at this very moment. The core of the issue, the central pillar that supports any currency's strength and stability, is the nation's foreign currency reserves. Think of these reserves as a massive safety net, a war chest of US dollars, euros, and gold that the government can use to back its own currency, to pay for international imports, and to instill confidence in the global financial market that the Iraqi dinar is a trustworthy store of value. For years, a significant part of the RV narrative has been anchored to the idea that Iraq's vast oil wealth would automatically translate into an ever-growing, impregnable mountain of these foreign reserves, forcing a revaluation as the world demanded dinar to access the Iraqi economy. But the latest data tells a different, more nuanced, and frankly, more concerning story. The Central Bank of Iraq has reported a slight but symbolically significant decrease in its foreign reserves. Now, on its own, a slight dip might not be a five-alarm fire, but in the fragile ecosystem of the Iraqi dinar, it is a massive red flag. It indicates that the outflow of US dollars from the Iraqi economy is now outpacing the inflow generated by oil sales. This is the market pressure we are referring to in the title. It's a silent, invisible pressure that is squeezing the dinar from within. So, where are all these dollars going? The answer is a two-headed monster that the Iraqi government has been fighting for decades: rampant dollar smuggling and overwhelming domestic demand for foreign currency. Let's talk about smuggling first. Iraq is a country with porous borders and powerful, non-state actors who have a vested interest in moving US dollars out of the country and into neighboring nations like Iran, Turkey, and Jordan, where the dollar is king and local currencies are volatile. This isn't just individuals sneaking cash in suitcases. This is a sophisticated, systematic drain on the Iraqi economy, orchestrated by networks that benefit from the instability. Billions of dollars are siphoned off annually, dollars that should be strengthening the dinar's position within Iraq, instead simply vanishing, creating a vacuum that the central bank must constantly fill. This leads us directly to the second part of the problem: insatiable domestic demand. The Iraqi economy, despite its oil wealth, is not a diversified, productive economy. It is largely import-based. From the cars people drive and the phones they use to the food on their tables and the machinery for their businesses, almost everything is imported. And to pay for these imports, Iraqi businesses and individuals need US dollars. They have to exchange their dinars for dollars on the open market, and this constant, daily selling of dinar and buying of dollar creates a persistent downward pressure on the dinar's value. The Central Bank of Iraq is trapped in a difficult position. If it restricts the supply of dollars to curb smuggling and protect its reserves, it chokes the legitimate private sector, stifling economic activity and causing the price of goods to soar for the average Iraqi citizen. But if it keeps the dollar faucet open to keep the economy running smoothly, it watches its precious reserves slowly bleed out through smuggling and high demand. This is the impossible tightrope walk that defines the IQD's existence today. And this is precisely why, despite the hopeful forums and optimistic gurus, a short-term revaluation is not just unlikely, it is economically illogical given the current pressures. Before we move on to dissect the specific mechanisms the central bank is using to fight this battle, I want you to do something for me. If you're watching this and you've ever wondered what the real story is behind the dinar, I want you to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. What we are discussing here is not financial advice. It is a deep dive into the complex realities of a national currency, and you will not get this level of unfiltered, data-driven analysis anywhere else. Staying informed is your most powerful tool, so make sure you are. Now, let's delve into the central bank's playbook. So, we've established the core problem, a slow-motion drain on Iraq's dollar reserves, fueled by smuggling and overwhelming demand, creating immense pressure that makes a revaluation nothing more than a distant fantasy under current conditions. But the story doesn't end there. The Central Bank of Iraq is not just a passive observer in this economic drama. It's the lead actor in a high-stakes play, and its recent actions are some of the most aggressive we've seen in years, directly targeting the very leaks we just discussed. The primary weapon in their arsenal is a sophisticated and often controversial system of strict monetary controls and a deliberate, managed de-dollarization of the domestic economy. Let's break down what this actually looks like on the ground, far from the spreadsheets and policy papers. The CBI has been progressively tightening the rules for accessing the US dollars it sells at the official, preferred rate through its daily auction, which is the main conduit for injecting foreign currency into the local market. They have implemented a complex web of requirements for importers, demanding extensive documentation, verified invoices, shipping manifests, proof of final delivery, all to prove that the dollars being requested are for legitimate trade and not for illicit smuggling or capital flight. This has created a bureaucratic labyrinth that, while intended to curb fraud, has also slowed down legitimate business, adding another layer of friction to an already struggling economy. Furthermore, the government, under pressure from the CBI, has begun to actively promote the use of the Iraqi dinar for internal transactions. You're starting to see directives and even proposed legislation that would compel local businesses, from real estate to car dealerships, to price their goods and services in dinar instead of the US dollar, which has been the default for high-value transactions for years. This is a monumental psychological shift to engineer. It's an attempt to re-establish the sovereignty of the national currency in the minds of its own people, to break the deeply ingrained habit of reaching for the dollar as a safe haven. The success of this de-dollarization campaign is absolutely critical for any long-term stability, but it's a painfully slow process, like trying to turn a massive tanker in a narrow canal. Every citizen and business that hesitates, that still prefers to hold their savings in greenbacks, is a vote of no confidence in the dinar, and that sentiment alone is a powerful headwind against any revaluation. Now, let's talk about the exchange rate itself, because this is where a lot of confusion lies. The central bank maintains an official exchange rate, which is currently around 1,320 Iraqi dinar to $1 US. However, if you walk into a currency exchange shop in Baghdad or Erbil, the rate you get on the street, the parallel market rate, is often significantly weaker, sometimes exceeding 1,500 dinar to the dollar. This gap, this spread between the official and the parallel rate, is the most accurate real-time barometer of the pressure we're discussing. A widening gap means the pressure is increasing. A narrowing gap suggests the CBI's measures are working. Recently, we've seen volatile swings in this parallel rate, which is a direct symptom of the market's perception of dollar scarcity and the success of smuggling operations. When the CBI clamps down on auction disbursements, the parallel market rate immediately weakens, as dollars become harder to find for the average person. This creates a two-tiered economy that punishes those without access to the official auction and fuels social discontent. The government's goal, its stated mission, is to unify these exchange rates. But to do that, they must accomplish the Herculean task of strengthening the dinar to such a degree that the parallel market rate naturally converges with the official one. And with the current pressures of smuggling and demand, that goal seems as distant as ever. This is the intricate, daily battle being fought. It's not a battle of dramatic announcements or sudden changes. It's a war of attrition fought in bank transfer records, shipping containers, and border crossings. Before we move to the final, and perhaps most crucial, part of our discussion, the realistic future prospects, I need you to do something important. If this deep dive into the mechanics of Iraq's currency crisis is making you rethink your assumptions, then I need you to take a second and leave a comment below. Tell me what part of this situation surprised you the most. Your engagement helps this channel reach more people who need to hear this unfiltered analysis. This is not about hype, it's about understanding. And with that understanding, we can now look forward and assess what the future might realistically hold for the Iraqi dinar. We've navigated the harsh present, a landscape defined by draining reserves and a central bank fighting a daily war on two fronts against smuggling and overwhelming demand. We've dissected the complex weapons in that war, the tightening controls, the push for de-dollarization, and the critical telltale sign of the parallel exchange rate. But now, we must turn our gaze to the most important question of all. What comes next? Where does this difficult, pressurized path ultimately lead for the Iraqi dinar and for those watching its every fluctuation? The uncomfortable truth, the one that often gets drowned out by the noise of hopeful speculation, is that the short to medium-term future for the dinar is almost certainly one of managed stability, not explosive revaluation. The central bank of Iraq's primary mandate right now is not to increase the value of its currency, it is to prevent a full-blown collapse, to maintain a fragile equilibrium amidst powerful opposing forces. Think of it as a medical triage situation. The patient, the Iraqi economy, is not being prepared for a marathon, it's being stabilized in the emergency room. The immediate goal is to stop the bleeding of dollars, to get the smuggling under some semblance of control, and to slowly, painstakingly, build up the foreign reserves to a level that can withstand global oil price shocks. This is a multi-year project that requires not just monetary policy but profound political will. The government must finally tackle the corruption and the powerful militias that facilitate the cross-border dollar smuggling. It must pass and, more importantly, enforce laws that make using the dinar not just a directive but a practical, reliable choice for every Iraqi citizen. This involves investing in productive sectors beyond oil, agriculture, industry, and technology to reduce the desperate reliance on imports that creates the dollar demand in the first place. Until we see tangible, sustained progress on these monumental structural issues, the economic foundation required for a revaluation simply does not exist. The mathematics of a revaluation, the kind that dreams are made of, require a level of economic strength, surplus, and global confidence that Iraq is decades away from achieving. A nation revalues its currency when it has too strong of an economy and too large of a trade surplus, forcing the world to pay more for its goods and assets. Iraq, despite its oil wealth, has the opposite problem, a weak, import-reliant economy with a constant need for foreign currency. So, the narrative that the current pressures are a prelude to an RV is fundamentally backwards. These pressures are the very reason an RV cannot and will not happen. The path forward is one of incremental, hard-fought progress. The best-case scenario for the foreseeable future is a slow, gradual strengthening of the dinar on the parallel market, closing that gap with the official rate, perhaps reaching a unified, stable rate somewhere in the 1,400 to 1,450 range. This would, in itself, be a monumental success and a sign that the CBI's policies are taking root. It would signal to the world that Iraq is finally getting its house in order. But this is a process measured in years, not months or weeks. It requires political stability, consistent oil revenue, and an uninterrupted commitment to the reforms we discussed. For anyone holding the dinar as a speculative investment, this is the reality you must confront. You are not betting on a single, magical event. You are betting on the entire political and economic transformation of a nation recovering from decades of war and instability. It is a long-term, high-risk wager on Iraq's ultimate success as a modern state. And this is why the disclaimer on this video is not just a formality, it is the most critical piece of information you will hear. This analysis is for informational purposes to help you understand the complex forces at play. It is not and cannot be financial advice. The decision to hold or to divest is yours alone, but let it be an informed one, grounded in the difficult realities of economics and geopolitics, not in the seductive whispers of hope and rumor. So, as we conclude this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final, powerful call to action. Your greatest asset in this or any financial journey is not a lucky tip or a secret prediction, it is your own educated judgment. I want you to make a promise to yourself right now. Promise that you will become a relentless seeker of context. Don't just watch one video, don't just read one forum post. When you hear a new rumor about the dinar, I want you to go and find the primary source. Check the Central Bank of Iraq's website for their official statements. Read reports from international bodies like the International Monetary Fund on Iraq's economy. Cross-reference every claim against hard data. Empower yourself with knowledge so deep that no one can sway you with unsubstantiated hype. This channel is your starting point, your foundation in reality. If you commit to this path of diligent research, you will never be a passive observer again. You will be an analyst in your own right. So, subscribe if you haven't, hit the bell so you don't miss our future breakdowns, and let me know in the comments what hard data point you plan to research first. The truth is out there, and it is your most valuable currency. Thank you for watching.